Well, we are back for some more Bleach Soul Resonance, and we're going to be going in game after a second, but I just wanted to highlight that we did get a reveal or tease or what have you for an upcoming Bleach gacha game, which will be coming sometime in 2026, either as a release or a more, prominent reveal. Because we don't have any information, I don't want to make a whole video. Oh, I got to get this video to 8 minutes so that, I get ad revenue. We're not going to do that. We're going to actually go in game and, talk about Bleach Soul Resonance. But I do want to say that the best case scenario for something like this is it's going to be the PvP game or something to that effect, or something like a turn-based game, or, something in that wheelhouse. Preferably both. Preferably this will be a Dokkan and Dragon Ball Legends game. If you aren't familiar with Dokkan and Dragon Ball Legends, Dokkan is Dragon Ball Z Super and OG's essentially PvE game. There is no PvP component at all. Sometimes they do little tiki-tack leaderboard stuff every once in a while, but it is a sandbox. It is a PvE sandbox. In the case of Dragon Ball Legends, that is a PvP game. The PvE content is not very good. I don't know how someone could actually stomach playing Dragon Ball Legends for PvE. It doesn't make any sense to me. So there's that. In this way, Bleach Soul Resonance has talked about doing some sort of PvP. It's not off the table completely, but what I would say I would prefer if we talk about Bleach Mirror's High is to go in that direction, as well as with an original story that just seems so perfect for getting a bunch of oh, this character is completely non-canon and they're a healer and they're a support and right? I do think that would be a smarter path for this game. Otherwise, I would like to see something turn-based, like I said. Just stay away from sort of occupying the Zenless Zone Zero-esque gameplay loop that Bleach Soul Resonance currently has, because we do not want to see these games compete. It's not good for either of them, and I don't think they're going to do that. So like I said, we're not going to talk a bunch about this because there's just not much news, there's not much info, there's no reason to stretch this out. But yeah, we got a 1 month special gift, which is pretty cool. Log in right now to claim 200 Spirit Jade, 5 Stamina Refills, and 5 Corridor Keys. Chief among those, I know some people are like, oh yeah, Jade. The best things here are the Stamina Refills and the Corridor Keys. We definitely need some of that. As we go in game, and can I go in game here? As we go in game, man, it just keeps happening to me. I used my Corridor Keys, as you can see here. I'm at 0. Thankfully it refreshes today, right? Sorry, just accept out 3 hours. Yeah, in 4 hours as of me starting the recording on this video, that will refresh, and hopefully I get another chance. But I just can't catch a break. Another guaranteed box and another dupe. I have 5. Let's go down here. I have 5 Yoruichis. I have 2 Yudaharas. I need some unique core stamps, man. That whatever they're gonna do, whatever they're gonna change it to, cannot come fast enough. At this point, I would say that we deserve a selector. We deserve a box that says pick any of these for free at this point, because man, I have 5 Yoruichis and 2 Yodoharas and 2 Ikakus, man. I have essentially lost so much of my core stamp materials on nothing, which is tough. I would trade all 5 Yoruichis in, well, 4 Yoruichis in, for 1 Hitsugaya and 1 Aizen. For 1 Toshido and 1 Aizen. Genuinely I would. But it is what it is, isn't it? So, aside from that though, what's the account up to? Right now, I'm still just collecting gear. It's not as though the gear is super incredible either, but we are slowly making progress. Here we have my first 6-star piece of gear. Here we have a piece of gear I upgrade, I think, for the early quest. This is not a very good piece, that's why it's not locked. But yeah, you can see I'm just sort of slowly piecing together, parts of characters. This is going to be a bit of a character overview, by the way, more of a kind of overview video, so, stick around. We have an almost 40,000, I guess closer to 36,000, of course, but 36,000 Yoruichi, which is pretty impressive. I still do need to ascend her. She has been an absolute workhorse for my teams. And I think in a vacuum does comprise my strongest team in general, outside of the Aizen one. But I think if I was going to talk about Yoruichi in that way, I would say that she and Aizen make up my most consistent team, as well as having pretty good synergy because Aizen can make her do a counterattack, and Yoruichi has an extremely strong counterattack based around things like her weapon and her stamp. So pretty good mix when it gets going. Aside from that, I've been raising Ikaku very slowly, almost 20,000. Not too shabby. I think as I play more and more, I realized that 25,000 is a pretty good like resting spot for characters. Like obviously I just have so much to improve here. We have attack percent here, which isn't too bad. We have the crit rate here, which is obviously pretty good, and then we have spirit damage here. I could probably change this to an attack percent, but like I said, this is gonna just be a general thoughts video. So if you're someone who's like, oh, you know, I don't really, you know, need this one, I don't really need this type of guidance, you know, no problem. But I'm just talking through the sort of mindset of a free-to-play player. We can see here I haven't even leveled up Yudahara's stamps or anything. There just hasn't been much reason to, right? There hasn't been much reason to. I think one thing I've noticed is that you just need to get your DPSs online. Like, I think I would like this to sort of fill in, but other than that, there's just not much to tinker with in this regard, right? Crit damage would also be a huge thing because this character gives characters his. So in the case of Yudahara, we actually would like to see this stat become crit damage, right? So that is something to, you know, to sort of keep in my mind. But yeah, we are just slowly making the rounds, continuing to increase power as ever I can. Not really worrying about how we get there. Yeah, you can see that major boost just leveling up the core stamp again. I think 25,000, like I said, is probably going to be a pretty good landing spot for most free-to-play players. I would not expect to get that much more without it being sort of like a time constraint, because we do need to continue to work on the acquisition of like other materials. But I can see I'm already working up to Ascension 5 on my Momo stamp, which is pretty cool. Momo has shown up a decent amount, and I haven't gotten around to using her religiously or anything, but she is certainly a strong prospect for the, you know, the Hitsugaya team, as well as for the standalone Aizen team, which is impressive in itself. As for what news we can see coming down the pipeline when it comes to Bleach Soul Resonance, I wouldn't expect anything until you see right here, right over here in this character trailer button, right here in this event daily button, the 2nd. The 2nd of January will be our big landing spot for Bleach Soul Resonance, where we will find out what we're getting next, which is probably, you know, obviously going to be Gin, but we've seen them change the order around a bit at this point. And I don't think I'm changing my actual plans as far as Bleach Soul Resonance goes. I just don't really have any reason to pull for Gin now that I pulled Ikaku from the standard banner. It is sad because I do love Gin, but imagining myself having to pull for a DPS and also probably his weapon, I'm looking towards the future to Kenpachi. What we will get is 10 more of these premium tickets, which means that in this 20 pull I could get Gin, and if I get Gin, I am much more incentivized to just give it into his weapon. I think that'll be pretty light, but what would have to happen essentially is that I do get Gin off of these tickets that I've just accumulated free to play. You know what I mean? I have no interest in spending any of my stamp, though you can actually see I spent a little bit of my Jade on corridor key, 2 corridor keys. I thought it was fine to grab my next raid up, and it ended up being nothing. It ended up being Ikaku's core stamp dupe, which seems to be my luck as it goes. We can go ahead and grab that. But yeah, that is my current plan, is just to continue to compile these tickets. Hopefully I hit Gin on a lucky pull. That would be pretty cool. And then, you know, I get my favorite character essentially that isn't Kenpachi, for now, for now, until, later characters are released. But isn't Kenpachi. I picked Kenpachi up with my Jade. I picked Kenpachi's weapon up with my Jade. And, the cycle goes on and on in there for now. Ultimately, though, if you made it this far in the video, how have your pulls been? Have you been particularly lucky? I know, like, this level of Jade acquisition is pretty wild for people, because maybe they've had to hit pity more than I have. Maybe they have to pity weapon and, weapon and character a few times already. I do kind of want to know, where is your Jade count at? Because I have obviously gotten pretty lucky, but, you guys know, I show you all the time. It's not like anything fishy's going on. We can look through the, packs and stuff. There's nothing there. Down and down, down and down and down we go. There's nothing exactly there. So it really has just been very fortunate SSR pulling luck. I did go to pity on the actual weapon stamp, but that's not really anything. I mean, 40 is literally half of it takes to get the character. But yeah. The second will be when we get the next big character, which will probably be Geen. As for other contents, I did make it to the 20 percentile of this one, and that's pretty chill. Again, I just don't have a proper DPS up and running for this competition, I guess. Like this one against Urahara. I have Ikaku, but Ikaku is still taking quite a bit of resources to get. Right now, I've found myself running out of XP, which is slowly waning. I'm up to 92. I've started spending XP just to stockpile some of these materials, because I went completely out recently. And we can see that if I go to, I don't know, Momo, I guess. We'll just say upgrade. You can see I'm really starting to wane in how much of this I have. But again, these are the kind of things that come up, and then with time, they sort of disappear as issues. How much con do I have? I am down to 194k con, dude. That is another brutal sink that I've been actually spending my raids on. Here we go. Another 48 in the bank, baby. But yeah, that one's brutal. The con cost and some of the XP costs have started to really ramp up as we've gotten characters closer to 80, 70, etc., etc. You can see that this is just my main squad of characters I have currently in that place. As we sort of play with the ranges, I think 60 is going to be where I start parking characters that I don't really have like a strong need for them to perform DPS wise, and 70 and 80 will be reserved for sort of the characters like Aizen, the characters like Yoruichi, the characters like Tosin, the characters like Kenpachi when he releases, favorites and such like that. But as far as Ichigo's Shikai form goes, while he has been able to start clearing more of the tower with time, whoops, where is the challenge? The tower with time, it still is sort of a bit of a wall, and I just don't want to put that much more into him if I'm like truly honest, because at most I'm just getting another weapon ticket set, and that's gonna be cool, sure, to get Ikaku's weapon, but it is definitely not necessary as of right now. So yeah, that's where the account's going. That's where we are in terms of a new Bleach game, as well as rewards and the like. We will still be sticking out until another week-ish from now, where we get to see what the next like layer of this event is going to look like sometime in January. But with all that being said, like you like the video, subscribe to the club. I've been Lone, and peace.